Well, guys, it's time to talk about Tesla's next earnings call coming up this week. Delivery numbers beat expectations, but were down year over year, and energy was absolutely through the roof. But is that enough to overcome the margin problem? And with its stock being on an epic run coming into earnings, will this earnings be enough to push Tesla back over $300? Or is Tesla doomed to make the Tesla bears right and we see the price fall back down to $200 and maybe even lower? So I will answer all this for you today, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do with my Tesla shares regardless of what happens. Just make sure you gently tap that like button this time around, guys. Let's do something different, and consider subscribing too. It's super easy to do. If you guys like the truth without the hype, that's what you're going to get today in regards to what I think is going to happen here on earnings. Now, Tesla beat on delivery estimates, and it was a huge move in energy as well, guys. I mean, it was massive. There's no way around it. But you got to remember, Wall Street doesn't care about any of that. Fair or not, Tesla deliveries were actually down year over year, and margins are the focus, not the energy numbers. So now all the eyes will turn to the earnings call itself. Now keep in mind, Elon's honesty on these earnings calls has basically told us it's still going to be a rough few earnings calls, basically kind of probably this quarter, maybe even next quarter as well, before we kind of see that, corner kind of turned and things starting to peak back up. So I'm not sure if Tesla's actually going to hit the revenue or the EPS estimates, meaning we could have a potential double miss. Now, I don't think we're going to have a double miss. I think we'll hit on one, miss on the other, but nonetheless, the potential is there. This isn't like, 2 years ago where we absolutely knew that it was going to basically be a double beat and we were just going to see something well above whatever the heck Wall Street was thinking, because we were way ahead of Wall Street. Remember, guys, it is hard to hit EPS numbers, especially when you're intentionally lowering your margins to take up more market share and continue to sell every single vehicle you own. And then add in the fact that ramping up Cybertruck, which Elon told us is going to lose money for some time until it's fully ramped, is going to be another hit on that EPS number. And also add in all the expansion at all the other factories, Optimus, and all the other R&D spend that Tesla is doing on things that we might not even know about yet. That's how far in advance they're thinking. And you basically have a recipe for a less than desirable EPS number once again. So even if the numbers don't meet expectations, which, let's be honest here, guys, the consequences will be harsh in the short term, as a long-term investor, I'm not concerned at all. And that's simply because I understand the why behind that number being so low. But you got to remember, we are dealing with Wall Street, and earnings is their game. It's not our game, it's their game. And Tesla has run up big coming into the earnings, which means Wall Street expects a lot more too. If we hadn't come in this hard and this big in regards to basically the stock price running, Wall Street expectations wouldn't be as high, but now they're kind of sky high because the price is sky high and that valuation is actually trading rich now. Now, there are three big concerns that I have coming into this earnings call that are going to impact the earnings specifically and the share price more importantly. But hold on, guys. I do have one big positive as well before we get to what I'm doing with my Tesla stock and all the other good stuff like that. So concern number one, EPS could be flat or even bad once again. Now, guys, before you run down to the comments calling me a bear, this isn't me being bearish. This is what Tesla and Elon have told us was going to happen and has been happening. EPS has been moving in the wrong direction the past couple of earnings calls, and there is nothing that Tesla has done to show a dramatic improvement yet. We may finally see the bottoming in process. We may finally see that we are, on an uptick here, but I'm talking about dramatic improvements. I can assure you having a 1% jump up in your EPS number is not a dramatic improvement, guys. I'm sorry. It's good to see. It's what we want to see, but that's absolutely not a dramatic improvement. Now, I'm personally really hoping that last quarter would be the low and that this is going to kind of be that slow start to getting back on track, but we don't know if that is the case yet or not. It's not definitive. Margins have appeared to stay under pressure for this quarter for a variety of reasons, and unfortunately, despite great energy numbers, we don't know what the effect, if any, will be on the bottom line because it still makes up such a small part of the overall profitability picture. You have to keep that in mind. Now, one day it will be there and it will make up a much larger part of that revenue and profitability picture. But that's not one day. We're not talking about one day. We're talking about earnings today. And today it isn't there yet, unfortunately. I know there's lots of folks saying all kinds of different things right there. That's not me being bearish, guys. That's me putting actual math to the data and showing you guys exactly what's there. Now, yes, there is the wild card that Elon can pull the rabbit out of the hat, but it's not the most likely scenario. So I'm planning for an basically a flat or possibly even one more ugly number. Concern number 2, more Elon drama. As if the guy doesn't have enough going on, he continues to make waves that are, honestly, if we're all being honest here, they are completely unnecessary. Now, in regards to this earnings call, Elon's always kind of a wild card in the first place, right? Sometimes it hurts more than it helps, and sometimes he speaks kind of off the cuff. He can be combative, and it's why we love him and why he drives Tesla to kind of those new heights, kind of that personality, that quirk in his personality is why we get those new heights. However, it also sometimes hurts the share price in the short term, and anybody telling you that's not true is simply not paying attention at all or not being honest. Earnings calls in general are where you talk about the last quarter's performance and then project where you see the company going the next quarter, maybe through the end of the year, and then maybe you do a final section on something big, kind of future things coming in the future. You kind of breathe, you kind of tease it, and then you just kind of move on to what the next thing in your presentation is. But we all know that's not Elon's style. It can be random, it can be wild. Sometimes it's completely focused and it's a great earnings call. Other times he may spend half the time discussing something that's years into the future and just speculating and pontificating on a future or some other random topic that's completely off topic from the earnings call itself. We also all know that he just can't stay off Twitter, and he's now wading directly into politics, which doesn't help much either in terms of large investors' perception. Even those large investors that share his political lean are not fans of this approach of wading into politics, even if they agree with his politics. Many already view him as distracted, and that is why they don't invest bigger in Tesla, so you can be sure that this is weighing on people's minds during the earnings call. And if you don't think some on Wall Street won't draw the conclusion that Tesla missing estimates is a direct result of him not being focused, you really don't understand how they work. Now, guys, don't yell at me. That's not me. I think it's complete garbage and stupid, and he's proven that he can do all these sorts of things and still run the company wonderfully. But that won't stop others from doing it. I'm not saying it's fair or that it should have any bearing on Tesla stock. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is fair or not, if that happens, it will have a short-term impact on the stock price, whether we like it or not. And that is the reason why Tesla is one of the most volatile large cap stocks that has ever existed by a mile, if not the most volatile large cap stock that's ever existed by a mile. Even companies valued at 20% of what Tesla is valued at are not usually as volatile as Tesla is. Bottom line, if the numbers don't meet expectations, or if Elon says something that can be viewed as negative, the stock will most likely get pounded once again. That is just the reality of the market we are in right now, and the situation with Elon more importantly. Concern number 3 is energy. Now, I hear you guys already yelling at me about energy being up massively quarter over quarter. Guys, I know it. I got it. That doesn't mean it's not a concern. The concern was this basically kind of a one-off jump up? And secondarily, does this sort of jump translate the same margins as it does when the scale is much smaller? You got to remember, guys, things are not always linear. Many times when you get massive growth, it comes at the expense of margins, which is exactly where Tesla is struggling. So basically, let me kind of give you guys an example here. If Elon says this was a one-time bump up, or if he doesn't give formal guidance about the future quarters growth rates in energy, that tells you basically the same exact thing, that it was kind of a one-off. Basically, it's just not sustainable, which kind of makes it a moot point moving forward, taking away a big bull point for this being one of the signs that the margins are going to improve. And the same exact thing applies if margins erode because of the huge volume increase. If that happens, it will feed the narrative that margins will not recover for Tesla, which will be a major blow for the stock. But slow down, guys. It's not all negative at all. It's not at all. There is one big positive that I see coming from this earnings. Now remember, Elon told us during the October earnings call that all of this pain was coming, so I have been planning accordingly ever since then, and I didn't buy any of the runs at the end of the year, and instead adjusted my price targets down instead, because he basically tipped his hand per se, and the stock has moved pretty much like a stock should, given the headwinds he told us was coming. Basically, he gave us the answers to the test. This allowed us to not buy the hype runs and instead buy the downtrends, which for me personally, it was buying at 169 and 141 respectively. And many of you guys out there did the same exact thing, or even better if we're being honest here. And the same thing goes with our group members who were all over Tesla in that price range. I mean, seriously, guys, there was buyer alerts going off all over the place during that time. And we have honestly just been sitting back and enjoying the run up in the stock since that time when we were buying it up like crazy. Remember, as a long-term buy and hold investor, this is absolutely perfect. And hopefully we once again get a chance if it falls once again. That's the perfect setup you want because we know why it's happening. And Wall Street will be short-sighted, meaning we know that they will overreact and not be looking at the long term at all. We also know where Tesla is going over the long term, so that may give us the perfect setup that we knew was coming and should have been preparing for. If you wanted to buy more shares of Tesla, maybe we get one last opportunity to do that. That is the big positive that may come if on the earnings call they say Tesla is still tracking to turn around at the back end of this year. Man, that right there could be another catalyst that could send the stock running. Is basically we're on track to completely recover by the end of the year. Now, obviously, I hope that Wall Street just glosses over it and give us another beatdown because they are short-sighted, and so we may get a golden opportunity one last time to add that last batch of shares on the cheap. And for those kind of looking to build out a position to start at some very nice pricing, guys, not trying to time the bottom, not guessing anything perfectly. You can't do that. Just simply taking what the market gives you on a simple DCA or a modified DCA or whatever the case is. That's up to you as to what strategy you choose to use. But just remember, trying to time the market like so many folks out there like to do never works over the long run with any sort of consistency. So don't do that. So what am I doing personally with my Tesla stock? This is where having your plan set before the earnings call is key. And I know you guys hate that I say it all the time, but planning and having price targets is key to investing, especially with Tesla because it's such a unique stock, guys. You've got to understand fair value and you've got to be disciplined and set those price targets. But you absolutely can take advantage of all this uncertainty if you play the long game and stay away from all the short-term speculation, all the people playing games and selling and buying and shorting and then long and call options and all the other ridiculous things that people are out there doing around Tesla. You don't have to do any of that. I mean, basically, here's what happens. Suddenly, Tesla is in the midst of a slowdown that they actually warned us about, but they're still putting out massive profits compared to any other automaker. And now Tesla isn't performing as a business or a company and is a terrible buy. And you shouldn't have been buying whenever it was at 140, because that's what I heard a lot of folks out there saying. That's honestly just as dumb as thinking, whenever Tesla's on a massive run, that Elon waking up in the morning and tweeting some, I don't know, meme of some sort that really means nothing should move the stock up 20%. But that stupidity is to our advantage as retail investors because it makes it very, very easy to identify when you should be buying and when you should be laying off. And when people get dumb about Tesla, we get shares on the cheap and can add at prices where you really shouldn't be able to add at, like at 169 and at 141 this past time around. I mean, I was crazy at the time to buy those, but the reality is the buys were easy to make. And I got to enjoy this latest run with absolutely no FOMO because I had already bought a bunch of shares. So this time around with this earnings, I am simply sitting back and watching the numbers and then watching what Wall Street does to see if they give me some juicy discounts or not. That's exactly what I'm watching for. I'm watching for how the business is performing. And then if it's still performing well, which I expect that it will be, maybe not in the short term, but in terms of the long term, everything's still there. I will happily deploy capital if Wall Street gets dumb enough once again. Now remember, I have a full position, so I'm just looking to add bonus shares at this stage, and that's exactly what I will be looking to do if we get a significant discount. No other stock moves like Tesla, so you need to be prepared and have your price targets ready, which I agree is hard to come by and come up with for Tesla specifically as compared to any other stock, but you have to do it. I'm just going to hold and look to add at your price target where short-term issues arise, like an earnings call is great, but the stock sells off anyways. That is the perfect time I like to add. And remember, guys, if you don't know how to get a price target, you don't understand how to do evaluation and how to value Tesla specifically, check out the pinned comment down there and see if a membership is right for you, where we teach you exactly that through 5 courses, through free coaching. You get direct access to me. We can talk about that on our Q&As. We have so much involved in the group, guys. Just check it out down there. You get my complete watch list with price targets. You get, see all my buy and sell alerts in real time, see all the $250 portfolio challenge buys. You get to be a part of the best 6, 7, and 8-figure Discord out there. I put 3, 4, 5 videos a week out just to the group there specifically. There's so much involved in the group, guys. Check out the pinned comment, see if a membership's right for you. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market. And click here to see my plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.